Good to see such an audience. I'm so excited. We have so many people joining us tonight. How great.
Well, the book well deserves a good audience.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Agree.
So we have 2 more minutes.
Yes. How is everyone doing during that snow?
Staying warm.
With entertainment.
Staying inside.
I've been Zooming all day long. I have too many conflicting Zooms.
You have a lot of snow in your background.
Oh, yeah, that was Central Park a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I'm a photographer, so actually I created a book, My Life in the East 50s, for a project.
Oh, wow.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Maybe sometimes we have you to submit some images or pictures for our bulletin. We would love to publish, or even through our newsletter, we can bring some pictures of the area. When you have it, please share, and we'll put your name on it, and just make sure anything you like to put a text to it with. Happy to.
The East Midtown Partnership, Rob Burns, he's published a lot of my images.
Oh, really?
Oh,
yeah, the image of the,
works,
when I have an appropriate, what?
Celine works in the same office with Mr. Burns.
Oh, well, I know him. He's so nice. And
whenever
I have an appropriate, nice picture of the neighborhood, not all, I publish it. I mean, I send it to him and he publishes it.
Please include our email in the future. We would love to be a part as well.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Well, you mean, where do you publish that? In your
newsletter? We could put it also on the website. We can put on our social media. You tell us. We make it if you like it.
I think, Celine, we can start. So you have to mute everyone except me and the five guests.
All right. So maybe we'll just ask everyone to mute themselves, and unless they want to
they can do that.
Speak, they can raise their hand. There is an option of raising hand. If anyone is familiar with a Zoom in that matter, then I will admit that person to speak, or can unmute themselves. Just everyone can unmute and mute themselves.
We hear some background noise, so everybody should mute themselves. Someone has a radio or TV on.
Yes. All right. I think we're good. Everybody is starting being muted. Okay. Mute all.
Good.
To mute. Mute all.
Here, let me picture of them.
Oh, here.
Okay.
There.
All right.
There.
Okay.
Okay. Admit. All right. All right. We have 22 participants.
Oh, wonderful. So are we ready to commence?
Yes, we are ready to commence.
All right. So good evening. My name is Dr. Charles Coutillo of the Sutton Area Community, or SAC. And I'm here tonight to introduce what I'm sure will be a most interesting topic for discussion. The topic being a book titled Walking Manhattan Sideways. The book explores the findings of Mrs. Betsy Polivy, who in a 6-year project traversed the entirety of the original Manhattan grid from the First Avenue to the 55th Street. I'm sorry, for the First Street to the 55th Street. And tonight, we are going to be discussing with her some of the vendors and store owners from the Sutton Place area who Mrs. Polivy encountered. And without further ado, I would like to hereby present Mrs. Polivy, and from the venerable bar and eatery Neary's, Uda and Jimmy Neary, and from equally well-known antique shop on East 58th Street, Philip Collect, Diana and Mark Jacoby.
Hi, thank you. I'm going to start out. I'm Betsy Bober Polivy, and thank you all for joining us. I guess none of us can blame inclement weather for not being able to get here tonight. It's kind of nice to have something to do and be warm and cozy indoors. But thank you for joining us. And just to see Diana, Mark, Jimmy, and Una's face pop up just brought tears to my eyes. So I'm hugging you all and thanking you.
We took over the business
we moved up here. We at first had the entire house as the business. As the business changed and we realized we didn't need that, we moved from our apartment on 419 East 57th Street 10 years ago. And so we've been here ever since. I think Diana would like to tell a couple of anecdotes about first starting with Philip Collick. About some of the people who came into our shop, including the Fondas who lived in.
Yes, they lived in the Dorchester. They had a pied-à-terre here, and Mrs. Fonda, Shirley Fonda, and they both came in together, but she was very friendly. Sometimes she'd come in and say, "Oh, hi, I'm just on my way out, getting Fonda his sandwich." And so we sold them some things and had some visits with them. And we had glamorous clientele that we still do, of course, but that was an era, a time. And I remember sometimes I'd see these women come in perfectly dressed and it's pouring rain and snow outside. I'm like, how do they do it? Oh, car and driver. Then one time, Philip Collick always said, don't let people take things. They always want to pick things up in their car and not have it shipped properly, and things always get damaged that way. So we have to be very firm about that. And I remember we had a client in who I knew a little bit, and very nice person. And she's bought a little tray table. And she said, you know, she lived in Washington. She said, I think I'll take it on the plane with me. I said, no. You must have it packed and shipped and properly. It's, you know, and she just looked at me and she said, honey, it's my own plane. And so, and then there was.
And then Philip Collick used to tell us stories about setting Christmas windows with.
One time I said to Philip Collick, you know, we have this antique desk in the window, and we have an antique inkstand and stuff. Why don't we get some nice quill pens, you know, as props? And he loves saying this. He said, oh, no. I've never had quill pens since Greta Garbo was trying to help me do the Christmas window and she got frustrated and broke them. So, and then one day we used to get these coffee tables, custom made for us in Paris, lacquer coffee tables, Chinese style, in Paris. And one day the phone rang and this woman said, oh, hello, this is Lee Radswell. I'm wondering if you have any of your wonderful coffee tables coming in. I said, oh, yes, we do. We're expecting a shipment. And she said, well, will you call me when they come in? I said, yes, of course. She said, wait, take my number. And so a few weeks later, I called her and she couldn't have been nicer. She came in, asked for me, and bought a coffee table. But she was really very, very nice. And she came in years later with the great ballet dancer Rudolf Nureyev. And they came in and they were looking through the shop.
This is
it was
Button Avenue. Looking at Jimmy Neary supposed to be there. You want to see him? Or no?
What is it?
Sort of a cold day, and he was all bundled up, and he suddenly had to.
Area community is having a. Do you
outside.
want to see it or no?
Excuse me, Joan Blankstein, could you please mute yourself?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
So anyway, I guess he was too bundled up for the cold weather, and he had to run outside just to get. It was too hot for him or something, and Lee Radswell just said, "Oh, Rudy always wears too many clothes." It was funny.
Yes. Now the house we're in was the very first building built on East 58th Street in 1857. And it was built by a member of the Pell family who had founded Pelham Manor in 1670. They owned a lot of property in Greenwich Village. And this was really farmland at that time, 1857. And actually, our house and the one next door to it were the only two buildings on this block until after the Civil War. It had always been a private house, as I said, and fortunately in 1950, a composer who became head of composition at Man's College of Music and Juilliard, where he had studied as a young man, Dr. Charles Jones, was offered $1 million in, I guess it was 1963, by a developer who was building the landmark at 300 East 59th Street, and he wanted to enlarge his footprint. And Dr. Jones says, I'm not going to let you knock this house down. And so he had it landmarked, and it was one of the very first buildings to be landmarked, May 25th, 1967. He convinced the neighbors next door to do the same thing. That's why we're both still here, which is great. And we owe him a debt forever for saving this house. We feel like we're simply caretakers, and we love being here. It's also been a blessing during COVID to be in a house and have a backyard and a garden.
And one of my favorite things that I always remember the first time when I met you, you walk in and there's all this magnificent furniture and lamps and chandeliers and this beautiful dining room table. And Diana said to me, oh yes, that's where we eat. And she said, it's for sale, but I hope we never sell it because then we don't have anywhere to sit and eat. So is it still there?
Yes, it is. It's sort of one of those things where we say it's for sale, but we really will never sell it. And where we say it's sold, you know, sometimes you just fall in love with things and you maybe have them work for the shop for a few weeks or months, and then maybe even take it to an antique show like the Winter Show or the International Show. And before setup or before the opening night, you realize that you really don't want to part with it. So as soon as the show starts, you mark it sold. We're guilty of that, doing that a few times.
Understand that. So should I introduce Jimmy now?
Absolutely. We miss him so much.
You've been so quiet and waiting patiently, Mr. Jimmy Neary.
Oh my God, yes.
So Neary, I'm guessing everybody on the Zoom knows it, and he probably doesn't need any introduction. But I have to say that initially when I was on 57th Street and I had done my homework before I began walking on that street, and I knew all about Neary's, and I was a little intimidated. So I kind of went in quietly, but I didn't say who I was or what I was doing. And it took me a really long time to honestly to get up the courage to go back to the famous Neary's. And I kick myself all the time now because meeting both of you was just one of the most splendid experiences. And I feel like I missed all this wonderful time that we could have been spending together. But I am so happy that we have each other now. And 1961, is that right? 1961? 67. Neary's opened in the exact same location. And take it away, please.
Hello, yeah. Hello all to my Sutton area friends. You're all out there, all customers. I love every one of you, and I can't wait to see that place open because we have done a lot of work on it. It's all cleaned up, everything else, kitchen, basement, every place. And only for the being closed down, we could never do it. It is the same, all the same pictures are back in the same places. It is gorgeous. And it's waiting for you all to come back. But anyhow, to start where I started, I was 15 years of age, and my brother had been working in a drapery store that belonged to Eddie Galler in Tubbercurry. And he was coming to America. So I got his place. I worked in a drapery store, a beautiful drapery store, an upper drapery store. And I worked for Mr. Eddie Gallagher for 7 years. For 3 years, I got 25 cents a day and had to cycle home to my house, which was less than a mile outside the town of Tubbercurry, and have my lunch. It was 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening to have a bite at dinner. I worked from 10 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night for 30 shillings a week, which would be about $2.50. It wouldn't be $2.50, less than that, maybe $2 tops. And then I was working there. I got a job in the New York Athletic Club as a porter. First job I went for after I came out here was an Irish guy, and turned around, I went up to see him. He was a big, big man. My dad was 6'2", and he was as big as him, but he was twice the weight of my dad. I went out in this warehouse with him, and he looked at me and says, "You're too small to work here. I'm sorry." And I busted out laughing at him. I says, "Thank you very much." What a beautiful welcome to the United States by a fellow countryman. I went across the street. I went into a diner on 231st Street. I was having a cup of coffee and a Danish or whatever I was having. And there was a gentleman sitting at the bar from home beside me. I was born on a small farm and he was too. So he told me to go down and check with Maureen Mulcahy on the west side on 48th Street. She was the Irish consulate. I went down to see her and I was speaking to her for about 10 minutes. She said, "By the way, I'll have you working next Monday." I said, "Ma'am, the last place I went, I got chased away because it was too small." She said, "Where I am sending you, nobody will ever say that to you." She sent me up to the New York Athletic Club. John, you know all about that place. So anyhow, turned around and I went to the AC and I met this man, Mr. Walsh. He says, "You'll be working here next Monday." He didn't ask me where I came from. He didn't ask me where I worked. And I got a job in the New York Athletic Club from 6 in the evening till 12 at night as a porter at the swimming pool. Couldn't swim then, can't swim now. So anyhow, between the two jobs, I worked from 7 in the morning to 12 at night for $51 a week. And I loved every minute because I was with people all the time and the money didn't make a bit of difference to me. I love meeting people. Then I worked for PJ for 7 years. He had a beautiful lounge bar and I hated the drapery. I really did. And he had a lovely lounge bar and there was bartenders there and one of them left. And I used to go in and fill in every now and again. And Eddie Gallagher said to me, "Do you want to still be the bartender?" I says, "I loved being there." And I worked him for 5 more years in the saloon. He had a beautiful saloon. One night I was in New York City and left there. Oh no, actually I left Moriarty's. It was on a Saturday night. And I used to go to the club in Tubbercurry in St. Bridget's Hall. And we'd have a pork in. We're looking for $2.50 in our pocket. When there was 7 of us there, and I took every cent out. So I wound up the next day, there was a market in Tubbercurry, and with the money I won, I bought 2 lambs. 4 years later, I had 14 lambs. And I sold them and I got £196 for them. I came home to give the money to my mother after I sold them. And there was a lady in my home who I never saw in my life, but I knew she was a Yank, because we used to call them back then. And she said to me, "Would you like to go to America?" I says, "I would love to go to America." She sponsored me. I got enough money for the lambs that paid for my passage on a ship, liner, to the United States. And I had $97 left when I came here. From there, I got those 2 jobs and I worked in Moriarty's for 7 years in total. And then Brian Mulligan, who was a partner there, or was the bartender there, I got a job bartending along with him. Now, we were the two smallest bartenders in New York, because back then, in an Irish place, it wasn't too safe to be in there if you're too small, because some of these guys might get rough on the weekend. You couldn't put them out because I was 5'4" and he was 5'2". So anyway, we worked alongside each other until 1967. But in 1955, how many of you remember the hole in the wall on First Avenue? Do you remember Delicatessen?
It was a deli on
First Avenue,
First.
right between 57 and 58. It's changed hands
A couple people did.
many, many times since. But Sandy, the guy that
Stanley.
owned it, Stanley,
Yep.
the man that owned it, used to come into our place at 10 o'clock at night when he closed, and be there at 4 o'clock in the morning drinking beer and eating prime ribs and eating steaks. And the customers used to say, "What are you eating in here for?" He said, "This food is better in here than it's in my place." So he was kidding, of course. But anyhow, that was in maybe 1969, 71 or 2 or something like that. But anyhow, he said to me one time, "The Jews are the smartest people in the world and the Irish are the dumbest." I said, "Stanley, what did I do wrong?" He says, "How could you let the guy upstairs buy the building over your head?" I says, "He does not own it." He says, "Yes, he does." Because I had asked Mr. Spindle, the man that owned it one time, maybe in 84, "Would you ever give me a shot at the building?" And he says, "Who knows? One day I might call you." Well, anyhow, that was on a Wednesday. I called Mr. Senville on the following Monday morning. I said, "Mr. Senville, does the guy upstairs own the building?" I says, "Everybody in the neighborhood says he does." He says, "Do I ever call you?" I said, "No." And then he says, he hung up on me. I knew then and there, I thought up in my head then and there, that he did not own the building.
He had not sold it.
Yeah, he had not sold it. And on December 31st, 1967.
86.
Oh, yeah.
86.
86, yeah. We turned around and Mr. Senville called me. He says, "Jimmy, you have the building. I want $1,375,000 for the building." I called a friend of mine, Bill Burke, in the Bank of Ireland. He says, "I'll give you the money." I called Mr. Senville back and I said, "I'll take it." So he sent the letters and everything to Paul O'Dwyer, who was my lawyer at the time. And he set out on the whole thing. And on March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, 1967, I opened Neary's. And on this 17th of March coming up, which is only a couple of weeks away, I will have that restaurant 54 years.
Yay.
One of my staff, Liz Farley, is with me 54 years. She came the week after I opened. Noreen McIntyre is there. She'll be going on 53 years. Mary O'Connor is going on 44 years. And I had 3 girls that retired. Margaret Leroy, 39. Her sister, 37. And Gertie Hennessy, 40.
Yeah.
No, 30 years. I had 6 girls there, and they were there for over a total of 225 years. 3 of them are still there. So anyhow, that turned around all right. I was only there a week, and who came in? That was the Governor Carey. He came in, and he brought a lot of nice people with him. So we were. I had a dress code, and I still have a dress code, because when I worked in Moriarty's, you couldn't come in without a jacket and tie. So anyhow, I did that, and I was turning around. I was doing not too much, but every other week I was getting 2 or 3 more than I had the week before. After about 9 months, it really, really got busy. To this day, we are packed every night. But anyhow, In between, after buying the building, I turned around and what did I do? What did I do after I bought the building? Later on, I was offered a lot of money for it, but I don't want the money. I wouldn't give up my life, like you both said. I wouldn't give up my life for all the money in the world. And I've been offered a fortune for that building, but I don't want it. What would I do? I'm going on 91. Do you think I'm going to go anywhere? I am not. And I'll be there. And Una, they say to me, well, Una, take it over. I said, when I'm in the wooden box.
The wooden box.
When I'm in the wooden box, you can come in and have it. But I would not leave. But anyhow, then in 1969, I came into work at 6 o'clock. Brian used to work the day shift and I worked the night. And I could hear the customers at the bar saying, he doesn't know who's here. He doesn't know who's here. So I heard that. I didn't look around on the left-hand side when I went in, but I went straight into the kitchen. And I looked out the little small window. And who was sitting on table 13 in the corner but John Glenn, the first man to orbit the Earth. And I says to myself, if Washington lived another day, at least we had John Glenn in when we were open. But then it started to come on and it got busier and busier and busier. Everybody now, the Clintons, the Roosevelts, the Bushes, everybody. Yeah. Everybody has been in that place with all the lovely people from Sutton Place. And there was one night there in the corner, left-hand corner was Jonathan Bush, his wife, and Billy Bush. And on the other side was Jean Kennedy Smith and her son, Bobby. They said hello to each other on the way out and just recognized each other. But anyhow, that was good enough. Going on a few years, Mayor Bloomberg, every St. Patrick's Day and every New Year's Eve for 30 years, when he's still coming, but 13 years that he was mayor of New York, he turned around, he'd call up, Jimmy, there's going to be 2 of us. He says, we'd show up maybe with 20. He says, because I couldn't tell him that because he'd say, I have no room. But anyway, we always worked with him. He never, ever missed with Commissioner Kelly.
On New Year's Eve.
On New Year's Eve.
Yep.
Yeah. And St. Patrick's Day.
Yep.
And Cardinal Dolan, when he came to New York, he was at the Mass. He was an Archbishop at the time. And he met Governor Carey. And Governor Carey says, you got to go to Neary's. So I'm standing in the door one Saturday night and I see 3 priests walking down the street. And Archbishop at that time was with them. And he says, the reason we're here tonight is Governor Carey told me after the Mass that he had to, like all others, celebrities, had to pay their respects and give their credentials to Jimmy Neary. Later on, we turned around and I think so. What year was it? He took me to Ireland.
Oh God. I want to say 92, but I'm not positive.
Yeah. But anyhow, 2 gentlemen, 2 detectives came to our place and says, we're going for a ride. Took me out to Kennedy Airport. LaGuardia, actually. Boarded his private jet. And 6 hours later, he landed me in my hometown in Ireland. We got up at Charlestown, which is 7 miles away. We went in then to my hometown. We went to Sligo town. And then he unveiled a monument in Ballymote to General Michael Corcoran, War of Independence. He was from Ballymote, which was 10 miles away. I knew his relative, but I never knew him. And another man, he has never been in, but his grandfather came from Tubbercurry, Vice President Michael Pence. I know all his family, but I never met him. So up to today, and what happened on the day before St. Patrick's Day last year, when we got shut down, I have the greatest life that anybody could ever ask in this great land that I love. Oh, by the way, and I was only here 9 months when I got a call and the card. Welcome to the Armed Forces of the United States. And here I am, 125 pounds, 5'4", driving a 60-ton tank in Fort Hood, Texas, and then shipped over to Germany. But that was great. I enjoyed it. And Kathy Gifford turned around, she says to me one time, she says, how did you feel being in the tank? I says, powerful. And I did. So that is my stay here in America, the land that I love. Thank you all, because you're all customers. God bless.
So Betsy, maybe I could just add just a couple things. So I have to say, you know, when we closed our doors temporarily on March 16th of last year, which is just so hard to believe it's coming on a year. I mean, it's just so hard to believe. I will tell you the outpouring of love, calls, emails, you name it, from our family and friends and customers and many people that are on this phone right now or this video right now. It was unbelievable. Talk about supporting small businesses and a family. I just have to say, I was so impressed and our family was so touched by it. And they were most worried about my father. He went from his whole life was Neary. He was there 7 days a week, morning, noon, and night. And he was going from that to that just stopping. So I have to say, when I look at my father, he is really my inspiration. And I tell all the people at work at BlackRock the same thing. For somebody who had every reason to be upset and angry and frustrated, not once in this past period of time since the pandemic started in March has my father ever been negative or down. And I do think it largely is due to his strong faith. But he would always say, we don't look back, we just look forward.
Never look back, never look back.
And I have to say, just kind of the inspiration of that, because you can get down, you can get frustrated, you can kind of let the whole world and all that's going on really beat you down. He would not do it. And for that reason alone, it was an inspiration to me. And that drove us to work on the restaurant and kind of do upgrades and improvements, knowing that those doors were and are going to open. And it's just a question of how soon that's going to happen now. It's only hopefully weeks and months away versus what it was in the past. But you know, it's just, it's very special because the light is at the end of the tunnel. And Betsy, I'd just wrap up by saying, when I read your book, and you know, I contacted you afterwards, I read every single page of it. And there were so many places that were so familiar to me.
Oh, I knew so many of them, yeah.
But seeing what Mark and Diana, seeing you in the book, I was screaming because I was like, oh my God, there's our customers having their store celebrated too. Yeah. I will tell you, the book is amazing. And it just highlights all these special jewels all over New York. So God bless you and your you know, problems with your foot and all of that towards the end of your journey. But New York is the most amazing place, and it will be back. It's starting to come back, and it will be back stronger and better than ever before. So thank you very much, Betsy, for hosting this, and for the SAC team for letting us talk today.
Something that an important point that I want to make to everybody, and you know, I started out, and it's always just been a passion project to want to promote, support small businesses, but it's also about wanting to inspire others. So every day you live in the 50s and you walk to the store, to work, you wherever you're going, and you most likely go the same way every day. And literally 1 block away from you, either north or south, is probably the most amazing bakery or any other kind of store that you never knew existed. And so I always try to encourage people to just walk down a different road, take the road less traveled. Mm-hmm. And when people come in from the tri-state area and they went to theater, remember that? And to museums, yes, do all those wonderful things. If you're coming from abroad, if you're coming from another part of our country, but that's not all that New York is. And the way that you can embrace New York is by going to different neighborhoods and going into these places and meeting the Jimmys and Mark and Dianas of the world. Then you can feel, I know New York. Because you don't know New York by going to the Empire State Building or the Metropolitan Museum of Art. So anyway, I would love to open this up now for any questions or comments or anything lovely you want to say to Mark, Diana, and Jimmy and Una, please do. And Dr. Charles, do you want to navigate this, or we'll just let it go, or Celine?
Whatever you think best. I think we have a number of people who are very interested and would definitely like to ask some questions. So anyone who has a question, by all means, unmute yourself and then ask questions of any of the 5 people here who are entertaining us with these valuable and very interesting stories.
John Delaney, right?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I happened to see on the recent newsletter about your book, and I was enthralled by the concept and your diligence to persevere through a lot of walking. And it reminded me that came about to me is it was Yvonne Goolagong was a great tennis player, but she also had this comment about the walkabout. And what it meant is, you walk about your neighborhood, you walk about wherever you live, you walk about, and doing so, you understand what is about you and your neighborhood in a smaller context. So I adopted that concept, and I often go on walkabouts. And part of it is just to wander into different neighborhoods and look at the architecture and sort of get the sense of what was before, some of it still is, and how things change. It's I'm looking forward to buying your book as well, and I'd love you to sign it. But it's a great concept, and I'm glad that somebody put it down in paper and pen. And Mark and Diana are friends from a number of places. We see each other in the neighborhood a lot. We have great times together, had dinners together often. It's great that you're still neighbors. I know when you were leaving, it was disappointing, but you didn't go far, which is a thing, to say the least. And last and not least is young James Neary over in the corner, and Una. It's a big excitement that the idea that we might be getting close to having the opportunity to convene at that beautiful place. It's always warm, wonderful. We don't have a bad time ever. I adopted myself into the place years ago. My first visit, I was by myself, and I was not neighborhood. And I noticed that James was looking at me as from afar because he didn't recognize me. But ultimately, he said, what would you like? I'd like to have something to eat, maybe. And from that point forward, we've always sort of had a wonderful kinship. And I bring my family now on St. Patrick's Day. It's become
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
we will have that again.
Yeah, my nephews, to them, as well as it was my pleasure and my fun and my St. Patrick's Day, and part of that whole festival of the day is now become theirs. And they're very determined to make that happen again. It's our tradition as Delaney's to be at Neary's for St. Patrick's Day. So we'll look forward to that again. Dr. Charles up in the corner here is just about 25 feet off to my right, or left rather. And, it's good to see him. And as president of the Sutton Community Group, it's a great group. We moved here 11 years ago. 11 now? 16 years ago. 4th Street, not that far, but it's light years away because it's a totally different environment, a different place. It's a community, it's a neighborhood, and it's everything that we love and wish to enjoy and continue to do so. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So, Jimmy,
Yes.
Jimmy,
Yes.
Becky and I are, I must say, everyone, we're a bit outliers because we're out here in the Long Island, but Susan Harris knew that we were very fond of Jimmy and Una and all so she luckily gave us the link, and I think Susan is on, as a matter of fact, now. But Jimmy, we can't wait to get back.
We probably travel the farthest distance.
I can't wait to have you back.
Oh, we used to say at the University Club that we do that, but I think the important thing here is, Jimmy, has Una given you a commitment?
No. I don't want any. I don't want any
Wait,
commitment.
we may give a commitment. Go ahead, John.
I don't want any commitment.
No,
when I'm in the wooden box, the commitment will be there and honored. But not before. No way.
The commitment is, will Una come in and ultimately be the one? She'll leave Black Rock and come into Neary's. That's what we want.
John, that is so long in the future, so it's so hard to say at this point.
I'm going to be over 100 when I go.
At the time, it's that long, and
But I'm ready. I'll be waiting and ready to go.
Oh, by the way,
We
John,
can't wait.
talking about 100. You know, I sold the house in New Jersey last September, right? And I had a violin belonging to my mother, and I didn't know where it was. Didn't Una find it in the basement? I don't know. I don't know. The mom gave it to me or my brothers gave it. I don't know who gave it to me. I don't remember. So anyhow, we're going out to get it cleaned up because it's got to be a lot of years. So anyhow, turn around and we're going over to a place where they do that with violins and all kind of instruments in Bergenfield. We're going out to dinner, and on the way, Una says, "Is that a new restaurant?" So we came back, only a mile from the house, a mile and a half. She comes back. It's a place that has a violin, a brand new store, all instruments and everything. It's a beautiful store, right? So we went in and we brought in the violin. Now I says, I know it's over 130 years because my mother is gone. It should be 130 years or more at this time. And the gentleman looked at it. He says, this violin is between 300 and 500 years old.
Oh my heavens.
He says it's worth thousands. He cleaned it up. I never knew it. On the back of it was my mother's initial carved into the back of the violin. Her name was Katie Marin, and she had KM.
So will you play it for us on St. Patrick's Day?
My mother could play it. And when my brother started to play it, we ran out of the house. So anyhow,
can you play it?
Actually, we have to get somebody to play it a couple of times a year. And it has to stand up. I thought we put it this way because it's going to put up at the bar. But we couldn't do it, but we got a spot for it.
We neither of us play it, no, but we actually have it now. It's all refurbished in a gorgeous casing in the restaurant. So whoever knows how to play the violin, we're signing you up.
Oh, that's right.
And we'll take it out of the casing. But
no one here.
One of the places in my book is called David Seagal Violin, and
yes,
it's not far from you. And he would be so excited to see this, and he would come and play it.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah,
very good idea.
You have it.
Yeah, that's an excellent idea. Yeah, we have it in a casing that lights up. It's really quite beautiful.
And
that's an excellent idea.
The man that did it up did a great job. A great job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll be open by St. Patrick's Day and you could have somebody play it then?
I don't know. Oh, but if we open, we'll have somebody play it, wherever it'll be. Yeah. Actually, Liz's kids.
Yeah, that's true. They can play it.
They can play it.
Liz Farley, our waitress's children. Yeah. On St. Patrick's Day, it doesn't look like it. You know, we're going to open when it's 50% inside. Yes. So it looks like we have a little more time to go.
Yeah.
But we see the light. The good news is the light is there.
Don't look back.
Moving forward.
Don't look back.
Excited. We cannot wait.
So, Jimmy, I'm going to start at age 82 taking violin lessons. Could I borrow that violin?
You sure can. You sure can. John, I got you by almost 9. I'm in my first year. Yeah.
Terrific. Well, we miss you.
Yeah, I miss you all. I really do. Yeah. And all the customers in Sutton Place and all around.
I have a question about the antique store. Were you there before the cutout was made to go up to the bridge?
No, the ramp was built in 1930. And the elevation in front of the house used to be the same as it is on 2nd Avenue. So the ramp and the sidewalk was changed in 1930. So we didn't come in here until the year 2000 when the restoration was completed. But you know, Betsy, this is why I asked to speak first before Jimmy Neary, because of course there's no following Jimmy Neary. And we've had great times in Neary's.
Yes.
Several years ago, Diana and I were sitting at a table, it was packed, and there was a huge fellow next to me. And he was sitting right next to me, and I was sort of afraid to look at him because his thumb was about as big as my hand. It was with a young woman, and she was talking nonstop about boxing. Boxing this, boxing that. Did you see this match? Did you see that? I thought this guy was great. I'm a boxing fan, but I was like, and you know, half an hour later, they stood up and left, and Jimmy came over. I said, I related the story. I said, who was that? He said, you didn't recognize him. I said, no. He said, that was Jake LaMotta.
Yes, right. Yes. Yes.
And he had these humongous hands, and that was his third or fourth wife, and she was a huge boxing fan, and obviously knew what she was talking about. But that was amazing. Those are the kind of people that you meet in Neary's or come across. Everybody. I think on New Year's Eve we were in, and Maureen O'Hara came in to sing. This is maybe 20 years ago. And I thought, this is fantastic. You never know. You never know. So we all look forward to your reopening.
You know what I love about your shops is the white picket fence. How many places in Manhattan have a white picket fence?
Yeah.
One.
It's true, and they're actually landmarked. So we have to.
I love it.
Which is great, and it's one of the reasons why we thought it'd be great for our shop here, because we didn't want to change the facade. When we first got the house, there wasn't a garden out front. There were no shutters. There was no lantern, and no window boxes, and the front of the house was painted purple. As we said in our landmarks application, our architect referred to it as blueberry yogurt. It's faded quite a bit. So we very carefully peeled that off and kept the white picket fence, but put it back to its original glory with nice shutters and window boxes. And we brought a Victorian street lantern over from London, which had to come by ship because they couldn't fit it in the plane. And,
wow.
So that is, and it was just the perfect size. We sort of guesstimated it when we got it, but so that's always a light in front of the house. And we are open by appointment. Really only 2 people can be in the shop. And socially distancing, but we welcome anyone to come by anytime to have a look through.
Do you have a ballroom there, or is that next door?
No, next door at 313, which is now owned by the Humane Society, was Le Club back in the late 70s through most of the 80s. And it was famous for their disco dancing and their crystal ball.
And I remember, Jimmy, that the special on TV with Kathy Gifford.
Yes.
Oh, that was wonderful. I saw that.
Oh, yeah. You mean the documentary?
Yeah, the documentary. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very well done. Very well done.
Wonderful.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we had dinner in, where was it, Una, the other night?
Oh, God, it'll come to me. Keep going. Yep.
Neil Leifer, he was the one.
Lusardi's? Lusardi's?
Lusardi's or something like that, yeah. On 78th Street.
Yeah.
On 2nd, right?
Checking down.
Yeah. But anyhow, we had dinner with him the other night. As a matter of fact, I was talking to him today. He's the one that came up with the idea to do the documentary on my life. And he took me back to Ireland and we were in Neary's in Dublin. I says, what are you doing here? He says, they told me to meet me in Neary's. I went to 57th Street and they told me we were over here. So that's why I'm here. Yeah.
It was great. It was great.
Oh, by the way, my building on, when was it? November 29th was 150 years old in 2069. Yeah, not 69.
No, 2000 and we're both
Yeah.
losing our dates.
Yeah.
2019.
2019.
2019.
It was
Sorry.
150 years old.
Hmm.
But the top floor was not there at that time. It was a 2-story house, and there was an architect had it before, going way back, and he put the top floor. It's only a half a floor, but the ceiling is 25 feet high. He was an artist or a sculptor, and he made a lot of sculptures around Manhattan. So that's Neary's. Yeah.
I often wondered why they had the huge windows up there.
Yeah, that's why, for the lighting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jimmy, I'm glad you mentioned the hole in the wall. I used to eat bologna sandwiches there when I was 9.
Oh my God! Oh my
I
God!
grew up on 58th Street.
Yes.
Building next to Mark and Diana was the Humane Society in the 50s, and I used to take my dog there. When it became the club.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh my God.
So you would remember Stanley. Did you remember the one of the waiters there, Chet Coleman?
No.
Do you remember Chet? Yeah.
No.
Chet was a waiter there for many, many, many years. And he used to come in after a shift. He would come into Neary's every single night. He worked 6 days and he would come in literally and spend all his tips on his dinner every night. And he was off one night a week and he lived on the west side and he used to come back over.
But they made sandwiches that were like 2 inches high. I've never seen so much bologna in my life.
And you never heard so much bologna as you're hearing right now.
That's good.
Oh my God. But it's been a wonderful world. Yes. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. God bless.
Thank you very much, Jimmy.
Yes. My great pleasure.
Charles.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for speaking
Thank you, Betsy,
to us.
for the inspiration.
Jimmy, everybody on board. Great evening. Look forward to seeing everybody in the neighborhood.
Night, Cheryl.
Absolutely.
Be safe and be healthy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Stay well, everybody.
Yes, stay well.
Stay well, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Good night. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you again, Betsy.
Yes, thank you, Betsy.